Well, good afternoon, and just hoping I can get a thumbs up from anyone that they could hear me okay. All right. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to our first Committee of the Whole meeting for 2022. Really appreciate everyone being here. My colleagues and staff and the public that's joining us, thank you very much. Hoping that you're all faring well, but at least you had a good holiday and New Year's. So as I said, this is our first council meeting of the year for committee. I do have regrets from Councillor Gibson today, and we have only a couple of items of importance on our committee agenda today. The first one will be coming up here with our CAO, and then I'll be handing the chair right on over to Chair O'Rourke for the rest of the agenda in front of us. So with that, I'll officially just call it the meeting to order and ask right off the top if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest or any general nature thereof on the items in front of us. I don't hear or see any, so we'll continue to move on. And as I said, the first part is of importance, not just to council as our team with our only employee, which is the CAO, but to staff and to the entire community in regards to the objectives for 2022, which have been approved by council. And as has been sort of a standing order of things over the last several years, whenever we have that approval, we ask the CAO to come forward publicly to do a presentation so that everyone knows what is on the list for this coming year. And so with that, just want to thank council and specifically the committee that helped guide the discussion to the objectives that the CAO has in front of him now. And for you, Scott, for your leadership right up until this point, and I'm sure right after this presentation too, of what you will be doing internally, externally for the community as we continue on in 2022. So with that, I will stop and turn it over to you, to our CAO. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, Mayor and councillors, and to city staff, and of course, residents and business owners that are joining us today. Like many new beginnings, a new year brings about hope, excitement, and renewed energy, and I'm pleased to share my 2022 performance objectives with you. The 5 objectives you'll hear me talk about will reflect the guidance, as the Mayor talked about as well, and direction of the Recruitment, Selection and Performance Subcommittee, as well as the great work already underway through the council-approved strategic plan, Guelph Future Ready, and of course, a multi-year budgeting. My 2022 performance objectives built on past successes with a renewed focus on empowering senior leaders across the organization to support and foster the development of strong, innovative teams at all levels, teams that not only contribute to building a strong culture of accountability and service excellence, but also embrace continuous improvement within the city. And with this foundation in place, my approach to this year's objective stays the same. As CEO, I will continue to engage the organization and the talented, dedicated people who serve at the city through collaborative partnerships and the implementation of innovative ideas and solutions. Together, we are delivering responsible and responsive public service to Guelph's growing and diverse community, and the actions we take this year will help make Guelph future ready. Perhaps one of the greatest things about being a public servant is having the opportunity each and every day to help bring the vision for our city to life, to make Guelph a more welcoming, innovative, and sustainable city. Our community is diverse and engaged, and the people who call Guelph home aren't shy about telling us what they need and expect from their local government. It is our obligation and privilege to support Guelph's community plan by actioning the priorities of our strategic plan. Together with these priorities and their subsequent actions will move us closer to achieving Guelph's shared vision. Guelph is a wonderful city to live, play, and work in, and I'm grateful for Council's direction and ongoing support as I do my part to bring our collective vision to life. So let's get into the specifics. Each objective reflects the priorities set out in the city's strategic plan, and in some cases, an objective aligns with more than one priority. I was really hoping there wouldn't be an objective here related to COVID-19 this year. That this pandemic would be a bit of a distant memory by now, but we have more work to do, as we all know, as we navigate through what is now year 3 of a global pandemic. So in 2022, an organization, we're deepening our focus on economic recovery, and it's perhaps timely that this is followed up by the second item on our agenda today as well. And it's expected that the economic growth in Guelph will rebound strongly once pandemic-related restrictions ease. This growth is propelled by the city's diverse economy, underpinned by a robust manufacturing sector and a large public sector. For the city of Guelph, this means advancing economic stimulus through our infrastructure investments. For example, in 2022, we continue to electrify our transit vehicles. We're preparing the Baker District site for the development, and we're getting ready for construction to start excitedly on the new South End Community Center. We're taking care of our assets, including roads, bridges, facilities, pipes, buildings, vehicles, and equipment. Through the capital program resources strategy, we're also investing in the necessary people resources to enable the delivery of the expanded capital program and projects. The key success factor for this objective is the balancing act of minimizing the budget variance and financial impacts to residents and businesses, while maintaining and in some cases, improving service levels across the organization. Council can expect COVID-19 updates throughout the year, but rather than at predetermined intervals, as was the case last year, the updates in 22 will be on an as-needed basis. And lastly, with respect to this objective, I certainly appreciate the subcommittee recognizing the fact that as a leader, I can only influence the factors underneath the CAO's control. And despite the challenges and uncertainty brought on by COVID-19 over the past 2 years, as an organization, we have not lost sight of the strategic plan as our guiding document and framework to achieve our goals. As you will recall, last June, city staff presented Guelph's first digital future-ready progress report. The progress report is one way for us to demonstrate accountability, ensure transparency, and showcase some of our successes as we make progress on our strategic priorities and become a more performance-oriented and data-driven organization. Sharing our story helps you hold me and the organization accountable to deliver on our goals, and work is already underway on the 2021 progress report, which will be shared with council and the community in Q2 of this year. We'll also start to implement council-approved transit route strategy that includes environmental benefits such as lower greenhouse gas emissions, monitor the property assess clean energy program, PACE, subject, of course, to your approval in February, and bring a report on the Race to Zero campaign with interim emission reduction targets for council's consideration in Q2. As a council, you're committed to reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050 or sooner. Now it's up to city staff to report back on the resources and funding needed to deliver on this commitment for consideration in the 2023 budget, and to keep you updated, of course, on progress as we continue our great work in protecting the environment. I'm pleased to share that many projects which will help us meet the city's environmental goals are already done, planned, or underway. Projects aimed at powering municipal facilities and vehicles with 100% renewable energy include upgrades at our wastewater treatment plant, the bus electrification pilot project, and using electric ice resurfacers at arenas. The 2022 official plan update work will recognize our role in responding to climate change and prepare Guelph to become net zero carbon community by the extreme case of 2050. And on January 24th, we'll present a transportation master plan that aligns with the strategic plan initiatives and the priorities, and of course, sustaining our future and navigating our future. This plan encourages a modal shift to sustainable transportation, including biking, walking, and taking the bus, while balancing the needs of drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. Choosing sustainable transportation can help reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to global climate change. And we're including environmental sustainability features in new facilities as we build. And that will, of course, include the South End Community Center and a new library in the Baker District. I'm looking forward to advancing key council-approved long-term initiatives this year, including the operations campus and the transportation master plan update, which will come to you for your approval shortly. Having a centralized campus, excuse me, for the city operations from snow removal to garbage collection to transit and fleet maintenance allows us to prepare for expanded service delivery while maximizing efficiency as Guelph grows to a sort of pre-Dolheim numbers of 203,000 people by 2051. This operation campus will help us achieve climate change goals set by council, including electrifying the city transit fleet. In 22, we'll continue field studies, gather data, and do preliminary design work for the operations campus. Already this work has given us insights about site constraints that will guide design to ensure what we build respects the surrounding natural and cultural heritage elements and aligns with the Guelph Innovation District's secondary plan vision. Design of the overall site plan is expected to be completed in 2023. Meanwhile, over the last couple of years, we've been exploring transportation options with our community to make our city move better and more safely. On January 24th, at a special council meeting, city staff will present the transportation master plan and outline the recommendation policies and programs to help build a sustainable and resilient transportation network for Guelph over the next 30 years. We'll also share a proposed schedule for the projects that will bring Guelph's transportation master plan to life. As you know, a great transportation system that benefits everyone offers a variety of travel options to suit individual needs. For both the operation campus and pending council approval, the transportation master plan will be reporting on milestone achievements throughout the year. And we're modernizing and transforming the way we deliver services. Of course, our community expects the city to be modern and customer focused. And last July, city staff and KPMG presented a report on service rationalization review. The review found that the city is performing well. However, it also identified opportunities for modernization to support more effective and efficient service delivery to Guelph residents and businesses. And we continue to evaluate those opportunities to address these recommendations, with the top recommendation largely focused on customer and digital services. And you'll recall in October, we shared the additional KPMG work, digitization of service delivery report with council, which outlined ways to improve customer service experiences through digital services. Council will receive updates as we implement new and improved digital services. And this year, we'll finalize and roll out Guelph's good service standards. We'll also develop and present a business case for a central customer contact center, supported by a digital service platform. You'll likely have heard it referenced to a CRM, to make it easier for people to find information and access all the excellent services we provide. If approved, we'll implement the plan within 2 years. There are essential steps on our path to becoming a customer-focused, performance-driven, and digitally enabled organization. This key success factor here is presenting council with measured outcomes and targets related to customer service and timelines that ensure accountability. And we have a great downtown, and we want to build on that and make it even better. Last month, we hired our downtown revitalization advisor, who's already building great relationships with people who live, work in the downtown. In 2022, we'll collaborate with even more external and internal stakeholders as we look to create a renewed strategy for Guelph's downtown. Once this work starts, we'll have more to share with you. And meanwhile, looking ahead to October, we're already planning for the municipal election. And as part of this work, we're developing updated governance training to help newly elected council get up to speed on the responsibilities of governance, so that they can be in a strong position to serve the community once in office. And again, I'm not predicting who will return and who's coming in new, but I'm just saying we have our governance set up so that we'll have that training in place. And the objectives I mentioned today are not superficial. They are tangible actions that help us improve sustainability across the many areas of our organization, but also very specifically the economy, the environment, transportation, community development, and the entire organization, while working to enhance community well-being. So you can see that the subcommittee made sure that we connected our strategic plan to our community plan. Our employees are doing great work in and for the community. The work we're aiming to do this year builds on what we're already doing or we're already have done as we continue to achieve the directions that we set for ourselves in our strategic plan. And before I wrap up, I wanted to express my thanks for the professionalism and dedication of all city staff, particularly throughout this pandemic, and for the ongoing support and advice I received from our corporate management team, my executive team colleagues. Without all of these people showing up and doing their best every day, I couldn't achieve the objectives that I've shared with you today. And of course, to you, Mayor and Council, once again, thank you for your direction and ongoing support. Let's continue what we've started as we become more modern, effective government. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you very much, Scott, for the presentation. And let me just see if anyone on the screen has their hand up for a follow-up question at this time. No, I think we're good. Hit it out of the park there, Scott. So we wish you all the best too as a council, and I'm sure the community will be supporting you too on these objectives. So thank you again, Scott, and really appreciate the update. Thank you. At this point, I am going to try to go over to Councillor O'Rourke, who did indicate she may have a little bit of problems with her connections from home today. So maybe what I'll do is, if it's okay with everybody else, well, technically I should go to the vice chair. Oh, that would be Councillor Gibson, who's not here. So you get me. If you don't mind, if there's no objections, I'll just keep going as chairing until Councillor O'Rourke can maybe jump on the screen. And to you, Stephen, if you see her jump on the screen, maybe just let me know, okay? And or just you can just interrupt and then you can go to her.
Sure, not a problem, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let me just pull up the agenda, everybody. Okay, so we have the 2022 to 2026 Economic Development and Tourism Strategy. Got a great presentation with several staff members already lined up. And so I will go, and then after that, we do have a couple delegations, a few. And so I'm going to go right now to our Deputy CAO, Jane Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, members of committee. I just wanted to mention that today, John Regan, the General Manager of Economic Development and Tourism, and Christine Chapman, the Manager of Economic Development, are with us today to present the Economic Development and Tourism Strategy this afternoon with our staff on deck to answer your questions. But before we begin, I'd like to recognize that this has been an intensely difficult time for community leaders, residents, entrepreneurs, and businesses across all industry sectors at home and abroad. The discussions and decisions that we have collectively made over the last 2 years have not been easy, and everyone has done their best to react to constantly changing circumstances during this time of crisis. So we present the strategy today within the context of opportunity, hope, and resilience as we look to get back on track to a future envisioned by Guelph's community. This strategy will set the stage to direct efforts of the department over the next 5 years and supports the functions of economic development, tourism, and the Guelph Junction Railway. This presentation is a bit lengthy, but it represents a lot of collaboration across city departments, industries, and businesses that constitute the heart of our city. And so the effort that went into this strategy deserves our time and consideration as we move to get to the other side of this pandemic. And I believe it's really fitting that it's the first report from IDE up on deck for our consideration in 2022. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to Mr. Regan to start us off.
Great. Thank you, Deputy CAO Holmes. This strategy has been informed by a united vision, Guelph's community plan, and is a deliverable of Guelph Future Ready and the city strategic plan, particularly the pillar of powering our future. Its actions focus on building Guelph's economic clusters, workforce development, placemaking, increasing Guelph Junction Railway revenues, and improving marketplace identity. The strategy is guided by the work of our previous economic development and tourism strategy, Prosperity 2020. Through its 10-year implementation, Guelph became a community recognized for its fast and diverse population growth, well-performing labor force, and progressive business support networks. Our journey in developing the strategy started in early 2020. It builds upon the extensive community engagement from our year of listening as well as targeted engagement with Guelph's business community. Input provided by stakeholders and advisory committees informed the strategy and provided context to how we want to achieve an economy that empowers us. Engagement activities in 2020 concluded just prior to the pandemic. We asked about Guelph's strengths, opportunities, and aspirations through roundtables, a business survey, and interviews with leaders across Guelph's driving sectors. In 2021, we validated the direction of the strategy through more roundtable sessions with business service organizations and advisory committees. To further inform the strategy, background studies were completed to measure Guelph's economic performance. A community competitive assessment was undertaken to benchmark Guelph to 14 Ontario communities. Over 40 metrics were collected for this analysis that fall into the following 6 categories: people and diversity, talent, economic vitality, innovation, equity, and quality of place. And then while the competitive assessment looked at Guelph in comparisons to other communities, we also completed an industry cluster analysis that paints a more detailed picture of our local economy's driving sectors. The results of these studies have also been used to help guide and provide evidence to support the strategy's goals and priorities. Developing this strategy during a time of economic crisis comes with its own set of challenges. No one has a crystal ball to be able to predict the next 5 years and how businesses across the board will continue to be impacted by COVID-19. But what we do know is that recovery will look different for each industry. You'll see an emphasis in the strategy on outreach and engagement to ensure we and our partners are listening to our local business community and tailoring supports to meet their needs. Engagement will be undertaken in 2023 to account for course corrections due to pandemic recovery or other economic factors. A more robust review of the strategy will be undertaken in 2025 that will include 3 years of data collection and broader business engagement. We do expect to see priorities come forward that will inform a new plan to be developed and approved by Council in 2026. Another challenge was access to current economic performance data that won't be available until 2021 census data is released. So in order to benchmark Guelph to better understand where the focus of our strategy should be, Polaris Intelligence was used as a point-in-time data source that uses predictive technologies to provide us a best estimate at the city level. Once the census results have been released and our first employment survey completed, a data fresh will be undertaken in order to validate any assumptions. And now I'm very pleased to turn it over to Christine Chapman, Manager of Economic Development, to speak about the components of the strategy.
Okay, thank you, John. So throughout this journey, we looked at the available data and listened to the engagement feedback. From there, we established our vision and principles to guide the strategy's development. Our vision. We understand that businesses and citizens demand a high caliber community with a strong economy that all people can participate in. The vision for this strategy is to support a city that is distinct, resilient, and bold, to strengthen ourselves as a center for innovation, creation, and community. This vision embraces our uniqueness and leverages our known assets. It targets our efforts to build up and attract people to our community and celebrate and support our innovators. 5 principles guide the strategy and our team as we navigate the unknown challenges ahead and support our corporate values. These principles will implement and evaluate success and determine opportunities as they evolve. Guelph needs to adopt a cluster-focused approach to building our economy and focus our efforts on the things that we know we do well. Everyone has a place in our economy. The programs for business development need to be balanced to support opportunities for all. And Guelph's collaborative spirit is our advantage. We will work with others and tap into the expertise of our community. Actions will be data-driven, making Guelph a reliable source of local business intelligence and drive innovation. And finally, as we implement our actions, we will endeavor to gain insight, continuously learn, and teach others. So getting into the meat of the strategy has 6 goals focused on business retention and expansion, investment attraction, support for small businesses and entrepreneurs, addressing workforce challenges, leveraging tourism assets, and enhancing our city's marketable image. Goal 1, expand and support existing businesses. In order to support businesses throughout recovery and beyond, the actions within this goal work to broaden, formalize, and measure the city's business intelligence, both by creating more opportunities for engagement, as well as more targeted relationships with businesses and our partners. Priorities within Goal 1 build upon the good work already started through the Grow Guelph program and improve support for industry-led tourism product development. Highlighted actions under Goal 1 include an annual local employment survey and business visitation program in order to build trusting relationships and gain intelligence on our economy. As well as we build our local intelligence, we will also determine a framework of how we collect, share our data with stakeholders. We will also establish industry cluster working groups to better understand the specific needs of business leaders, particularly in those areas where we have identified strengths. Part of this work also includes a revised terms of reference for the Guelph Economic Development Advisory Committee to ensure that we have the right voices at the table to help guide and measure the implementation of this strategy. And Goal 2, attract a targeted investment. Investment attraction also plays a key role in supporting a recovering economy. Guelph has limited large parcels of land that are market ready, and as such, the city will need to take a more proactive role in helping to catalyze investments within our community over the next 5 years. Priorities within Goal 2 target lead generation activities by better understanding the local assets and land development needs. We will be more strategic in marketing our industry clusters, as well as the Guelph Junction Railway and local sports, group, and event facilities. Highlighted actions under Goal 2 include increasing visibility of promotable land opportunities by proactively working with our federal, provincial, and local partners, strategically market our industry clusters through the launch of a standalone investment attraction website, and create an outreach plan for the Guelph Junction Railway to share the value of rail transport, and with stakeholders develop a sport, group, and conference tourism plan. Goal 3, champion an innovative and entrepreneurial ecosystem. In parallel with our efforts to build industry clusters, Guelph also needs to continue to support entrepreneurs and small businesses of all types, including home-based. We recognize that the majority of one-on-one services required by these businesses, such as mentorship, training, programming, networking, and specialist coaching, are offered through our partners, such as the Business Centre Guelph Wellington, Downtown Guelph Business Association, the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, and Innovation Guelph, and that the city plays a support role to these organizations and their critical services. Priorities for Goal 3 look to increase that support for those partnerships that enhance access to services for existing and aspiring entrepreneurs and innovative leaders. Highlighted actions under Goal 3 include scaling promotional efforts to support entrepreneurial ecosystem partners. We will foster new spaces for innovation, such as working with stakeholders to promote, expand, and support development in the Guelph Innovation District, and develop and expand an annual promotions plan for Guelph Shops, a program that has already garnered international recognition. Goal 4, advance talent attraction and skill development. Talent is an important community differentiator, and as demographics and work models continue to change rapidly, the ability for future growth relies more heavily on the quality of a community's workforce. Priorities in Goal 4 will continue to develop relationships with our educational institutions, provide adaptive support to businesses, and focus on placemaking efforts that make Guelph attractive to visitors and newcomers. Highlighted actions under Goal 4 include support talent development initiatives, particularly for those that support challenges for youth, 50+, BIPOC, LGBTQ2S+, and newcomers. Provide ongoing updates and resources to businesses about workforce support, and work with our supply side partners and workforce leaders in order to meet short-term demand side needs. Goal 5. Build a must-see visitor destination in Ontario. Tourism has significant direct economic impact on visitor spending beyond that of hotels and restaurants, and introduces prospective new residents and entrepreneurs to our community. Currently, visiting friends and relatives make up the majority of visitor spending in our city. However, there remains a gap in available curated experiences and visitor service infrastructure. Guelph has an opportunity to leverage the downtown core, the university, college, and recreation assets to drive recovery and growth in this sector. The priorities of Goal 5 establish a municipal accommodation tax, or MAT, to leverage destination assets, curate experiences, and enhance placemaking and wayfinding. Improving visitor services and destination marketing, in turn, increases visitor stays, spending, and future MAT revenues to be reinvested in the sector. Highlighted actions under Goal 5 include establish a municipal accommodation tax, coordinate with Culture and Recreation Department to update the inventory of Guelph's destination assets, use MAT revenues to enhance support and training for tourism-focused businesses, and develop a placemaking plan, new tourism infrastructure, and a wayfinding strategy. And then finally, we have Goal 6, enhance Guelph's unique brand for businesses, talent, and visitors. We will ensure our marketing and promotional efforts support all goals in this strategy and enhance placemaking efforts to strengthen our community's brand identity and sense of place. The priorities in Goal 6 bring Guelph's value proposition to businesses, prospective entrepreneurs, and visitors. Highlighted actions under Goal 6 include a new marketing strategy to support the brands and activities of the economic development and tourism and Guelph Junction Railway functions. Further targeting audiences and messaging through developing new channels and collaterals. Another very important body of work that was completed alongside the strategy is defining our key performance indicators. These indicators are index measures comprising of a number of sub-indicators made up of a mixture of input, process, and output metrics that we will be setting as a baseline in 2022. 7 areas covered. Business outreach measures proactive business outreach. Business support and development measures the response of our department to business needs. Investment attraction measures the success of meeting site selection needs of targeted clusters. Marketing and promotions measures the reach and effectiveness of our marketing efforts. Service excellence measures the ability to deliver services that meet business needs. Operational measures how we utilize our available internal networks. And then finally, while key projects are implemented, they will be measured on their effectiveness in influencing the other indicators. A significant amount of work has gone into ensuring that the measurements used align realistically with what the department can track and report. As for funding implications, there are a few financial mechanisms to be leveraged to support this strategy. The adoption of MAT is expected to increase resources by roughly $500,000 to $800,000 per year and is imperative to invest in enhanced tourism infrastructure and marketing efforts. Although MAT will have specific deliverables targeting local small businesses, it also supports our accommodation providers through campaigns that increase overnight stays. There are also spin-off benefits to other sectors, such as arts and culture, the community's brand image, and quality of life. Please note that we will be presenting a detailed MAT report to you on February 7th, alongside the short-term rental housing report from Public Services. And we can address more detailed MAT questions at that time. We also recognize that the city is not the sole provider of all business services required to fully implement this strategy. Agreements with our partner organizations would be required to ensure one-on-one business services are delivered, particularly to those that support female, BIPOC, student, circular economy, and small businesses. The budget required to fully fund these servicing agreements is $300,000 per year for the duration of this strategy. The budget request falls outside of the approved 2022-2023 budget, and as such, staff will monitor alternative funding opportunities that will impact the scope and initiatives and activities that can be undertaken through the implementation of the strategy. We could easily have added twice the amount of slides in order to give a picture of how excited we are to get started implementing and measuring our progress on this strategy. But we know you likely have some questions for us, and we will end here and look forward to providing more information on those areas you have particular interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chapman and Mr. Regan. I'm thrilled that we have economic development strategy. I think it's critically important and really excited to see what you've presented. I know that Mayor Guthrie, we're going to go to delegations first, and they are coming in through video. So our first delegate is Christelle Maines of the Business Center of Guelph, Wellington. Christelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Councillor O'Rourke.
Wonderful.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
My video started here.
Yeah, and once there you are. Happy
Yay.
New Year. Look, you've got party balloons and everything. I love it.
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right. So you've been here before. You know we have 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
And I will start the clock, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say. Thanks very much. Go ahead.
Mayor Guthrie, members of council and city staff representatives. I'm here representing both Business Center Guelph Wellington, as well as my colleagues at Innovation Guelph, two organizations who are well-versed and practiced in strategic planning initiatives. My purpose is to express support for the proposed economic development and tourism strategy for 2022-2026 as presented. I would ask His Worship, as well as members of council, to consider my endorsement for two very important realities. First, Mayor and Council's approval today will absolutely signal the business community that a defined and determined action is being taken for further support through and beyond COVID recovery. I'm sure we can all agree that the social and economic consequences of COVID have caused significant change, losses, and stresses within the business community, resulting in a potential economic fallout to reverberate for years to come. Business Center, Innovation Guelph, Chamber, and the DGBA, I lovingly refer to them as the Business Collective, have been boots on the ground since the beginning of the pandemic. Each one of these organizations have fought tirelessly to support their respective clientele with guidance, information, and resources. Adapt, pivot, and potentially closing strategies have populated daily conversations. This collective plays an important role in assisting with economic development. It should be noted that existing businesses account for 80 to 90% of the economic growth in the community. As well, over the last 10 years, most new jobs in Ontario were created by small business. It is also expected that the majority of new jobs created in the next 10 years will be by companies that don't even exist today. With this being said, small and medium-sized businesses require priority attention now. Their financial health and welfare is critical to the continued economic development of our region. As a co-participant in December's budget deliberations, I could see the struggle to review and choose what level of funding organizations should receive or form of support, if any. These are difficult decisions and par for the course when running a progressive city. In every great community, there will always be more economic opportunities to pursue than resources would allow. This is why the proposed plan is so key in both purpose and timing. For an economic development strat plan to be successful, it is imperative to select specific activities and then recruit a collective of business advisory services to help inform, support design, implementation, and completion of defined objectives, goals, and key metrics. This plan does this and more. This plan is smart. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's anchored within a designated time frame. The design and layout and reporting process will help the FDev tourism team understand what the drivers of new investment are, tied into the potential and job growth by assessing the strengths and weaknesses of our business community. This detailed assessment can then assist and inform with policy and procedural decisions for both future consideration as well as potentially risk mitigation. Speaking of the future, there are businesses, both new and existing, that are surviving and thriving. These companies are looking for direction to take their companies national and international. This active plan is strong in direction and will absolutely support Guelph's future aspiration and help it earn its rightful place in the global marketplace. Strong, vibrant, and economic savvy communities compete on global marketplaces. It's absolutely necessary. Over the next couple of years, advances in information transfer, technology, along with the accelerated speed of the digital transformation, will drive the need for an up-to-date and comprehensive economic information system, especially for future investment and attraction purposes. An innovative plan can do this. Technology, global markets, corporate realignments, and growth along the labor market demands all directly contribute to Guelph's investment and attraction. An informed plan can do this. Human resources, advancing infrastructure, and quality of life are increasingly becoming sources of advantage. An introspective plan can do this. The business climate, especially relationships between all levels of government, industry, and community organizations, must demonstrate a supportive environment for enterprise development. A collaborative plan can do this. In conclusion, I humbly suggest that the ultimate success of this proposed plan does not only fall under the responsibility of city staff. Let me clarify. Yes, city staff will ultimately bear responsibility for the design, development, implementation, and the key reporting of said strategy. And yes, the Grow Guelph Partnership Network, which includes advisory services, will share business intelligence and collaborate on business retention and expansion activities. Having said all this, ultimately the stamp of approval from our mayor and council, who represent as elected thought leaders, will serve to animate the plan and bring it to life. We need you to see the vision and embrace it as a formidable, actionable, and leading edge plan that will be both bountiful here in Guelph and also help with our global marketplace attraction as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity today.
Ms. Mains, you came in at 4 minutes and 57 seconds, which makes me think you timed that, baby. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I want to look to my members of council to see if there are any questions for you. Okay. You need to give me a second here to scroll through. And I see no questions, but I wanted to thank you very much for all the support that you've provided to small, medium-sized businesses before and especially during the pandemic. So thanks very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Okay, our next delegate is Marty Williams, representing the Downtown BIA. And he is joining us by video as well, I believe.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Williams. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
There we go. You've now appeared on my main screen, so welcome. You're no stranger to council, and so we are going to give you 5 minutes for your delegation, after which time we'll ask you to stick around because there are likely to be some questions from members of council. All right, go ahead.
I think I can be even quicker than Christelle on this because I can just say I echo everything that she has told you, ditto from us and our standpoint. And like our other business organization colleagues, we support the vision that's been outlined here for the economic development and tourism strategy, and encourage council to likewise come to the table and support it. I just want to put a little plug in additional thing on a favorite of mine, the municipal accommodation tax, which I think is going to do so much for tourism in this town, and that finally we start recognizing tourism as an industry cluster, as an important part, and largely unseen, I think, in Guelph, because we are so blessed to have Linamar and the university and other large players that if we were in Elora or someplace, we would probably be talking more about tourism than we typically do. But it's an important part of what goes on, and especially important to downtown, as it is a tourism asset, as we say. So municipal accommodation tax, to me, I don't know, we're going to be talking about this more in February, and you'll probably see my smiling face again at council, delegating on the implementation of that. Is a crucial element that is currently missing. The mayor and other members of council will recall an exercise that we did on a strategy development for tourism called Destination Guelph some years back. So we already have a strategic plan, a roadmap for tourism. What we never had was the resources to implement that, to operationalize that roadmap. And the municipal accommodation tax gives us that, puts the gas in the tank of the car that we've already built, I like to say. So I will leave it at that and say, like the Chamber of Commerce Innovation Guelph, the Guelph Wellington Business Enterprise Center, DGBA supports the vision outlined here. Congratulations to staff for being clear and articulate about what we need. I'm looking forward to rolling up our sleeves and working with everybody on building a stronger and more prosperous Guelph. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I see you have a question from Councillor Alt. Go ahead, Councillor Alt.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Rourke. I'm just turning off my camera just so that you get a better signal. Mr. Williams, reference was made, and I'll ask Ms. Chapman and probably Ms. Cheyenne this as well, to buy local Guelph initiatives. And I am wondering specifically, what does that look like with regards to the downtown? In my mind, there are many ways that we can envision a buy local Guelph initiative. But the manifestation of those can be significantly different from, say, a shopping mall to a downtown market. So I'd like to know what some of the specifics might be that we could imagine these to be.
Well, with regard to this strategy, I think that we have been, that has been rolling out currently. And so many things that the city staff have done to encourage that across the city, including in downtown. So I think the more that we have mutual support for all parts of Guelph and all industries in Guelph, including tourism. I'll give you, but one thing that does occur. For instance, our town is kind of quirky around hotels, that they're mostly on the periphery, whereas other cities would have more accommodations in the city center. And if you think about it, you might think that downtown Guelph doesn't care about hotels or hotel stays because they're mostly not here except for a couple. And that's simply not the case, because we understand that the more people stay in a hotel, the more that they're staying in Guelph, the more likely they're going to come and discover downtown. They're going to discover other tourism assets. They're going to explore our parks and waterways. They're going to do all kinds of things because there's a place for them to stay. And we have been working over a number of years with hoteliers to say, how can we be mutually supportive? How can we get folks to explore the city? And how can we encourage people to stay more than just as a day trip? So I think if what you're talking about is buying local, so that mutual support, and that's a good example of that we have to see beyond our narrow scope and have a broader community vision for how this will improve everything. And again, that is all in the roadmap outlined in Destination Guelph around the tourism aspects of it, using the assets for sports tourism at the university that will drive visitation to downtown and to other areas of the city. So we've been working in a cooperative, mutually supportive way for years now. We just haven't had the resources to operationalize that vision.
Thank you. One last resource that I want to ask you about. If I'm correct, you are now, I believe, chair or lead on the Ontario BIAs right now. And so I want to ask you about municipal accommodation tax. I think that there could be some concerns about implementing this during COVID. And I'll probably ask you this again in February. But have you any experience with other jurisdictions where this has been implemented, where this has been seen as a disincentive for people to to use hotels in different jurisdictions?
No, it isn't. If you go to Niagara Falls, if you go to Toronto, Ottawa, Barrie, places that I know of, I think London has it as well. You're going to go to, well, let's pick a place. You're going to go to Niagara Falls because you want to go to see the things. You want to go see the light show. You want to go see the falls. You might like the casinos. You might like the tacky things on Clifton Hill. You're not going to make a different destination choice based on a 4% municipal accommodation tax. It's been there for a long, long time. If you're going to go to Niagara Falls, you're going to go to Niagara Falls. If you're coming to Guelph, the thing that's not, you're not going to make a different decision. You're going to come because there's something that you want to see, something that's going on, and you're going to stay in a hotel in Guelph because that's the decision you've made. It is not going to it's not going to put us at a competitive disadvantage. We need to build up our assets, our draws, our tourism. We need I have a particular interest in building Guelph as a live music city and having a better use of the venues in downtown and in the rest of the city that promote live music. Live music and the music industry in this city is also one of those kind of sub rosa things that's big and unseen and perhaps underappreciated. So we need to focus on not hiding our light under a bushel, but showing all the great things there are to do and great reasons that come to Guelph. And the municipal accommodation tax is one of the ways that we can do that.
Thank you. One last follow-up to that one. So just sooner or later is really the question. Do you believe that the municipal accommodation tax should be implemented as soon as possible? This is really a COVID-related question because there has been some concern that during COVID that this would not be appropriate.
Absolutely. And again, there are some misleading headlines in that were reported when this report came out saying that it's taxing the hotels. It is not taxing the hotels. It is taxing the visitors who are coming, and they're used to paying the HST, and they're used to it just comes with the territory now. So I don't think COVID, I think COVID has nothing to do with this. If people are going to come and stay in a hotel, that's a decision they're going to make. And I would go further and say I would hope that the city could, seed the fund so that we could get busy with all the things that need to happen around building this strategy out and have the fund pay that back somehow. So there's nothing about COVID that I think would say put a pause in this. We have. It has come to council previously, and the decision was made to pause it because we didn't know what was going to go on in the COVID era. But there's nothing in my mind that says that somehow this is going to be inappropriate because we're still living in the COVID era.
Thanks, Mr. Williams. Quick one. What do you mean by seed the fund? And then that's it for me.
Oh, just if it was possible, and I'm forgive because I haven't asked anybody about this, but to say, look, we're going to collect as we reported $500,000 to $800,000 a year. If we could, if the fund could be, we could, I don't know how you say this in municipal terms. Again, forgive if I say this the wrong way, but that the city could put $500,000 up that the fund could pay the city back for, just so we don't have to wait for a year to get busy on this sort of thing. That just as a for instance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, if you can hang on a moment, please. Councillor Gordon has a question for you. Go ahead, Councillor Gordon.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, I've done the same trick. Councillor Alt, I've taken my video off of sketchy signal today.
Actually, Councillor Gordon, is it possible for you to use your microphone? It's a bit hard for us to hear you, which means it's really hard for people on the live stream to hear you.
Okay, I gave up my microphone. It's a small house. My wife's on a call right now too, so I'll speak closer. Is that a little bit better? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can boost your volume up a little bit, we'd appreciate
Okay.
that. Thanks.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Williams, and thank you for your shout out to the possibilities with enhancing the musical contribution that we can make in this city. I'll be mentioning that in my question to staff a little later on. But my question to you, Marty, is you mentioned that idiosyncrasy that we have as a city, in that we have most of our accommodation is around the periphery. Would you see it as an asset if part of our economic development plan was to attract more accommodation possibilities in the downtown core? And if you think that is true, do you see any mechanism for that in what you are doing and what this report is proposing?
Certainly it would be, I mean, speaking for an asset for downtown, yes, it would be great to have more accommodation available in downtown. I don't know what the impact of some of the recent transformation of hotel spaces to other uses or longer term uses, such as what seems to be going on at the Holiday Inn on Stone. So if there was some way that we collectively could attract and find a space for more accommodation in downtown, certainly we'd be cheering that one on. But I'm happy to work with the current accommodation providers and hoteliers and to say that we're all in this together. I remind people that, we're 10 kilometers long and 8 kilometers wide as a city, so we're pretty compact. So even the periphery it's not like the airport in Toronto versus downtown Toronto. That's a long way away. This is a shorter thing. But if there was some hotel chain that came knocking and was really interested in something that was appropriate and doable in downtown, yeah, we'd be cheering that one on for sure.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. I'm just taking a quick look here. I don't see any other questions for you, so thank you very much for being with us here today, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Our next presenter is, our next delegate is joining us by telephone. That's Helen Stumbos, who is the CEO of the Guelph Games. Ms. Stumbos, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Okay, so welcome to Council. I believe you've delegated before, but I just want to remind you that I'll set a timer for 5 minutes, after which time I'll let you know that your time has expired, but then hang on in case any councillors have questions for you.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I definitely won't take 5 minutes. I'll probably be very short. I'm going by memory because my computer's on the fritz right now, but I just wanted to make sure that we were included on the tourism table, the Guelph Games. If it wasn't for COVID, as many of you know, we were set to launch in 2019, pretty much selling out. If you don't know what the Guelph Games are, we are a master sports festival. Basically, it's kind of like an Olympic Games. So we'll hold a multi-sport games for athletes over 30, as well as a community festival that supports the games. We're looking at attracting over 2,000 athletes. A little bit about Masters athletes. They really are a great target audience. They're athletes that are over 30 years old. They usually include their family when they're traveling to events, making participating in the competition a larger part of a vacation. They tend to be in higher household incomes. And they tend to really extend their stays and support the local community. For those of you that know a little bit about the Guelph Games, we were really trying to create Guelph as a sports tourist destination. We want people not only in Ontario, but around Canada and the world to come to Guelph, to visit Guelph, and to see us as not only a great place to come play and participation in a sporting event, but also to enjoy the community. As I mentioned, part of our games includes a big community festival. And that is a very community-driven festival. We have partnerships, of course, with local organizations. We're talking to Hillside. And above and beyond the festival, there'll be food and beer tours, promotions, discounts, passports. etc. So people can really enjoy a lot of what we have to offer. I'm a bit biased. I'm a big fan of Guelph, always have been. And I think when people see Guelph and experience Guelph, they'll want to come back. So I just wanted to make sure that, we were on the table as part of tourism here. And I know we haven't executed an event yet, but in 2019, we were pretty much sold out. We even had teams coming from San Diego. We had teams coming from Ottawa, Alberta. We even had a team from Portugal and the UK interested in coming. And now for 2022, we're keeping it a little bit more regional, provincial, just due to COVID, hoping to expand. And it is an annual event, so we're looking to grow this annually and increase the awareness of Guelph. We also will have a legacy fund where we'll kick back funds from the Guelph Games into youth sports in Guelph. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of who we are, and fingers crossed that we can execute an event in 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Dumbos. I have to say, I admire the resilience of the folks leading the Guelph Games. You've reinvented yourself a number of ways, appreciated the Christmas train this year that went to lots of different neighborhoods. So you guys are just continuing to reinvent yourself to get folks out and active. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the description as well of the games. I'm going to look to my fellow council members to see if they have any questions. I don't see any hands, but I do have a question.
Sure.
So could you just tell us the number of participants you had expected in 2019 and also what that growth projection looks like? And then what you think the impact might be of fewer hotel rooms in the city?
Yes, so we were expecting in 2019, we were on set to have 1,500 athletes participate. We were pretty much sold out. Our target this year is about 2,000 athletes. We're hosting most of the sports at Exhibition Park. We have a deal with the Delta Hotel. I can tell you that we did some numbers based on the economic impact of the 2016 America's Masters Games. The total spend per person is about $180. So we're looking at about $1 million in the economic impact. That does not include operational expenditures, capital expenditures, and local spectator expenditures.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, so that economic contribution piece is awesome. But we know that there's a proposal to transform the Holiday Inn into student accommodation.
Yes.
So what is the impact to a plan like the Guelph Games of losing a number of hotel rooms like that?
Yeah, that is an area where we're going to see how the impact is in this year's event. But I know we had already had a deal with the Holiday Inn back in 2019 for a number of rooms, as well as the Delta. So far right now, we have confirmed a deal with the Delta, but the impact of losing hotels, obviously, we expect to grow this each year. Originally, I think our numbers nationally were 35%. That's down this year. I think next year we'll look at maybe increasing that to 20% and slowly increase our national, international audience as we grow and as we get out of COVID. But we definitely would need accommodations. I know we're also dealing with the University of Guelph, but a lot of athletes in the 30 plus age group tend to want to stay in hotels. They're usually not wanting to stay in residences. So lack of hotel rooms might be an issue for us. Luckily, we do have a decent deal with the Delta, but that's only for a handful of rooms, so it's not for everybody. We'll probably know more after we execute one of the events this year to see kind of where we sit. We will be doing a deal for some of the townhouses at the University of Guelph. But yeah, losing the Holiday Inn is definitely an impact for us because we had planned on using them for the 2019 games.
Okay, good. I appreciate your response. We've zoomed in on a very, very specific question on a broader plan that's got that's our real focus today, but I appreciate you answering that question. It helps us in some decisions later in the coming months. So wonderful. I'm just looking at my council colleagues to see if there are any questions, and seeing none, just want to thank you for your time today and for joining us. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so it's back to us, council. Before we go to questions, I just want to point out that Les Petrosi joined us. If you have questions about the GJR component, for people who are listening, that's the Guelph Junction Railway. So he is here if you have any questions about that. Okay, I'm going to go to Mayor Guthrie first, and then Councillor Alt, Courant. Wow, okay, I'll start a list. I've got Mayor Guthrie, Councillor Alt, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Caron, and Councillor Downer. Let's start with that. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I'll try to make these as quick as possible. Well, first of all, actually, I'm happy to put the motion down for this report if you wish, Chair.
Excellent. And I see Councillor Caron seconding.
Yep. Thank you. So I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just wrap up my comments at the beginning because they're very quick. This is an excellent report. And the deep dive you've done on this is excellent. So I just want to thank you. There, I'm done the comment. My question is, I know this might not be a strategy, but maybe it's just a question of accommodation. In attracting new businesses and trying to retain and or grow the existing ones, has there ever been any focus on home-based businesses and home-based supports? And I say that because pre-COVID, there's always been questions coming in to the city around the ease of doing business from a home-based perspective. And I feel that there may very well be an influx of that as well, coming into and out of COVID, and more of that happening. So I understand it might not be a strategy, but is there an eye or a focus on how Guelph can be really accommodating in regards to accepting home-based business supports? And I know that may have to do, well, not may, it will have to do with zoning and planning and such as well. So I understand that connection. But what, from an economic development point of view, are you maybe aware of or thinking of doing? Thank you.
So we'll go to Mr. Regan first on that one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through the chair to Mayor Guthrie, absolutely great question. Actually, goal 3 really identifies and speaks to entrepreneurship and home-based businesses. A couple of things that we've discovered is that we can certainly do a better job in communicating with those home-based businesses and working with them through our service groups such as Innovation Guelph and the Guelph Wellington Small Business Center. Those are really boots on the ground for these types of businesses. And then again, of course, working with our friends in planning and ensuring that we're providing the real-time information for individuals who are wanting to set up home-based businesses. So I guess the short answer is yes, we are. And we also see this as certainly a growing sector, as we saw after the 2008 economic slowdown.
Mayor Guthrie, you're muted.
That's interesting. It said I was unmuted. Thank you. So through you, my only follow-up question is, in the KPIs and in the sort of 2023 midterm check because of COVID, would we in that check or in the KPIs also identify how we're doing in that sort of home-based business uptake?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes. So our plan was to really work closely and enter into long-term agreements or more solid agreements for the Business Center Guelph Wellington and also Innovation Guelph, working closely with the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, of course, and then DGBA. So we will be tracking those types of businesses that we provide services to, and again, working as close as resources will allow us to work with Innovation Guelph Wellington Business Center.
All right. Again, in all other aspects, I just want to say thank you very much. It's really excellent, and all the other strategic things. I just wanted to make sure that this particular issue just wasn't completely missed, which it hasn't been completely missed. So, thanks. That's it for me, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Guthrie. Questions now from Councillor Alt.
Thank you very much, Chair O'Rourke. Questions through you to staff, about three, I think. First one that I really want to start off with is because this is really a tourism and economic development that we're looking at. I was wondering, perhaps I missed it in the presentation, what is the percentage breakdown of economic activity that is related to hospitality and tourism versus industry versus education, which I think are the three big sectors in Guelph?
Yeah, so I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Chapman, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Of course.
Thank you, John. Through you, Chair to Councillor Alt. Although we don't have those numbers that we can grab immediately to be able to provide to you, you can look into some of the supplementary reports that support this strategy. You can see how we have described the tourism industry. Education is also in there. Hospitality is also in there, as is many of the other sectors that make up our community or our economy. So I would encourage you to have a look at those. If you have specific questions, please reach out to us. Tourism has been identified as a priority sector, meaning that it does require some specific attention that will help to speed up and get us a little bit more concentration of investment and economic activity in that priority sector. But I would encourage you to, I would point you toward the industry cluster analysis.
Thank you for that last comment that you made. I was wondering, is tourism focused upon because it has the greatest potential for development at this point, or are there other reasons? I'm just curious.
Yes, through you, Chair O'Rourke, to Councillor Alt. Yes, tourism has been identified as a priority sector, specifically currently due to the fact that it does require some specific attention and programming at this time.
Okay. Thank you. I think related to that, you had made reference in your presentation to key performance indicators, and I don't want to get into the real details, but I was wondering if you could provide some bare bones of what we are potentially looking at in terms of those indicators.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the through you, Chair O'Rourke to Councillor Alt. Absolutely. Some of the key indicators, say, related to business outreach would be the number of businesses and types of businesses that our office has proactively reached out to related to different types of programming. It could be specific programming. It could be general outreach as well, and we'll make sure that we track that as well. So that's one example. Examples around marketing is marketing reach, the number of, as well as the number of advertisements or engagement with our advertising. So that would be some of the sub indicators. And yeah, without getting into too much detail, yeah, and we will be reporting back on that.
Thank you. Last question. I just want to do a follow-up on a question that I asked to Mr. Williams with regards to the implementation of the accommodations tax. I was wondering if there was anything that you wish to add or you wish to possibly even correct or clarify that Mr. Williams might have stated with regards to that.
So maybe I'll pop in here through you, Councillor O'Rourke, or Chair O'Rourke, to Councillor Alt. Yeah, as mentioned, the municipal accommodation tax, it's actually going to come to council on February 7th as a more fulsome report, and a lot of details will be within that report. But I can't necessarily disagree with anything that Mr. Williams said in regards to that.
Thank you. That's perfect. Good to know we're all on the same page. Thank you very much, Chair O'Rourke.
Thank you, Councillor Alt. Just before we go to Councillor Gordon, I also wanted to point out that Kathy Masterson is in the meeting today. I neglected to introduce her, and she's the Manager of Tourism and Destination Development. So we'll continue to direct all questions really through to Mr. Regan, but we do have some good supports if you wanted to dig into some of the specifics of the report that we have before us. Okay, Councillor Gordon, over to you.
Thank you, Chair O'Rourke. Yeah, a question let's start with Mr. Regan, and I want to thank you, John, for responding already to the heads up I gave you about this question that I'm going to ask. But I wanted to make sure this was out in the public. And Madam Chair, with your indulgence, I have a slight preamble to my question, because I wanted to say that in reading through this great report, I was surprised, and I have to say a little disappointed, to not find references to the arts sector in the report, other than a chart that mentioned that we have 2,000 amazing arts workers in this city. Now, specifically referring to goals number 5 and 6, where I think my question relates the most, goal 5 mentions building a must-see visitor destination. The report mentions recreation assets, but oddly not the tremendous asset and international reputation that we already have drawing tourists here, and that is the arts sector. I think with city support, we could do so much more. When I visit a city, that's the first thing I look for. I know everyone's different. I look for what that city has to offer with its culture, its arts, its heritage. That seems downplayed to me so far, and I know there's much more work to do about this. I think I always get my back up a little with apologies that when I see sports mentioned as a priority without also mentioning arts at the same time, because I think they're both should be treated equally in the priorities. In goal number 6, which is enhancing Guelph's unique brand, we already have our arts sector as a big part of that brand, and Marty Williams alluded to that. There's been talk for years, actually, and I've talked with Marty for years about making Guelph officially a music city. This asset, I think, could be exploited for the mutual benefit of our city's tourism and economic goals. And our arts community that has been so hit hard during COVID could contribute a lot to the goals of this report. So, sorry, Madam Chair, my question is around the rationale behind what seems like a missed opportunity to not build this more into the report, not build in more of a defined partnership with the arts community. And I'm wondering if I could get some comments on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Regan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through to Councillor Gordon, and thank you for those questions in advance. I just want to say that here in economic development and tourism, we feel everything is economic development, and so arts and culture is part of that, and we have a great relationship within that department. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll just stop there, and maybe I could call upon DCEO Clark Bush just to maybe talk about some of the strategic planning that's been happening with her group.
Sure. Thank you for the question, and through the chair to Councillor Gordon. Absolutely. Those are inextricably linked, and I don't think you should read into this that we don't make culture a priority. As council knows, previously culture and tourism were one department, and we made that separation not that long ago. But that work is still continuing within the culture side of things. So led by Dana Evans' team and using the resources that we have within our culture staff, we will be doing culture planning work in the coming year and years because that is absolutely a priority, and I know Dana's team stays well connected with John's team as well on that. So certainly there's lots of great connectivity between culture and tourism, and I think there's a lot of opportunities, especially through things like that municipal accommodation tax, to look at how we can leverage, as you say, those sports tourism opportunities, but also culture. But just know that within the culture team's work plan, and I've been talking, I think, with a couple different members of council about that, just to provide you that reassurance that that work is underway. We want to be doing that using our in-house resource that
resources that we have within our culture department to really look at how we do sort of that short-term, medium-term, and long-term planning for our for the culture side of the economy, and as well as for the culture community, and obviously working closely with our partners in the community like the Arts Council and others to make sure that we're doing that in a holistic way.
Thank you to you both. If I could comment on what I just heard, I'm well aware and very appreciative of the high priority that particularly your office, Ms. Clackbush, gives to culture and the arts. I think my point in raising this question is that it doesn't look that apparent in reading this report that that collaboration and partnership is there. So my hope is as we move forward with this, that that becomes more transparent, more obvious, especially when we've learned, even with our recent discussions about our new library, about our, hopefully we'll see this year more of a cultural master plan, the return on investment in anything cultural and in the arts sector is pretty spectacular. So I think stating right from the get-go that that is a priority in this document would send a signal that I think a lot of people would buy into.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gordon. I'll take that last comment as a comment rather than a question. And I will go to Councillor Caron next.
Thanks. I'm echoing all my colleagues on the depth and the breadth of this report and how timely it is, given our current state of the nation. So I have a couple of questions. I'm not going to have a lot of questions on the economic side because we've had some pretty comprehensive plans in the past, whether it's Grow Guelph. We're picking up and taking it to the next level, but the groundwork is all there, and I'm really excited about that new level. We're the direction that we're going. One of the economic development initiatives that we've had in the past, though, that I would like to ask about is the concept of twinning. And I know twinning, we have, I believe, Treviso, Loria, in Italy, and the idea was that it was an economic development tool to share knowledge. It wasn't just tourism, it was about complementary economies, sharing ideas and collaborations. And I know there were preliminary talks, I think about 5 years ago, with another twinning exercise with Irvine, Scotland, on the environment, renewables sector. I don't think those discussions went anywhere. I think it was an outreach from representatives of their council to our council. So I'm just wondering, where does twinning fit at all into our economic? I didn't see it in the report at all, and I just wondered whether that was just a bust. It didn't result in any tangible benefits from our past experiences, or whether that's something that is still on the table.
Thank you. If I may, thank you for the question, Councillor Crown, and through you, Madam Chair. Twinning is certainly something that takes a great deal of resources. I can speak maybe from my personal experience that have not really seen really good measurable outcomes from it. Not to say that we can't do it, but it does require a significant amount of resources. Many communities are moving away from it. I think that's, maybe I'll just leave it there if I may, Councillor Crown.
Okay, that's fair enough, especially if it's under an economic development umbrella. I mean, I think we've seen other benefits in terms of, cultural exchanges and just having it on our signage, and there's other, parameters to it. But for economic development, I appreciate that response. Moving away from ECDEV then. A lot of the media about the accommodation tax has been really, at least I've seen on social media, very negative, which actually surprised me, because I don't think a lot of people realize how many municipalities already have it. and that Guelph is an outlier. Barrie, London, Waterloo, Hamilton, Stratford, Oshawa, Kingston. I mean, I just got started. I started looking at other municipalities, and all of our comparators already have a municipal accommodation tax. And I think because it's rather invisible. So I just wanted to kind of just ground truth that this is something that has not impacted tourism in other comparator municipalities. And, you know, I don't want to compare it to Toronto or St. Catharines or Niagara, because those are, you know, unique destinations. But our closest comparators like Barrie and Kingston and Hamilton and Waterloo, they haven't seen an impact, COVID aside.
If I may, Madam Chair, through you to Councillor Caron, you know, I certainly echo what Mr. Williams stated earlier. The impacts have always been very, very positive, you know, by this new added resource. So we see no negative impacts, and neither do the accommodation providers, in which we've had some fairly significant engagement with. You know, prior to this, when this was under DCO Clackbush with Dana Evans, and now with us, the sentiment hasn't changed that this is something that is needed. And again, you'll see a much more fulsome report on February 7th.
Okay, great. I love the references under placemaking to some of our unique assets and the marketing and the branding. And I know when we've talked about placemaking in the past, we talk about things like doors open and our heritage and our natural spaces. Placemaking, although the word place is in the word itself, is also about food, beer. I mean, we had a very successful ale trail probably 2 decades ago. Our Tasty Tours, which is a private enterprise, brings a lot of, you know, is having a great business. So that's more of a comment, but food and beverages. I mean, Niagara on the Lake has made an excellent tourism brand for its wineries, and Guelph has always been poised to be the brewing capital of Canada. And so I'll leave that as a comment, because I know that a lot of your action plan talks about exploring the brand. So that's more of a comment. Last but not least, looking at the action plan, looking at the timelines. I see a lot of words like investigate, explore, partner, establish, seek approval, provide updates, those kind of things. And not that those aren't good words, but action plan, I'm looking for implementation a lot sooner. And I know Ms. Clackbush will laugh when I say this, but she's behind a mask, so we won't see her laughter. It's 2022 now, so we're at the 5-year mark to 2027. 2027 is the single most, I think, Guelph date for Guelph to have full implementation of its tourism strategy. Every resource that we have should be going towards 2027, and not just exploring these plans and investigating these plans, but implementing them. So wayfinding signs, all the marketing, all the videos, all the marketing tools should be focused for implementation for 2027, because it is our bicentennial. And when we had our 1927 centennial, all the photos and all the historical records show it was a big event. Our 150th was a big event, and our 175th was a big event, but 200 is going to be big. Where are the timelines aligned with that? Because I don't see them aligned with that in the action plan. And how can we get them into alignment? And I know the answer is money. I know the answer is put it in the budget. I know the answer is it's up to council to decide how much is going to be put towards that tourism timeline. But we need your help.
Sure. Through Chair O'Rourke, Councillor Karan, and just before I flip this over to DCO Clackbush, just so you know, as you know, we're working with 10C, for example, to work on the market and looking at an agreement with them that will take us into the 2027 into that. So part of the MAT, we also identify and see need for using MAT for those tourism destination marketing pieces. So it certainly has knock on a notice, and it's certainly on the radar. And now I'll just turn it over to DCO Blackbush.
Certainly, and through the chair, absolutely, it's on our radar. We had updated council, I think, earlier in 2021 in terms of where we're at. So yes, it is absolutely, of course, on staff's radar and work plans. But as you've rightly pointed out, it's also a little bit going to be over to council to give us direction on what exactly the scope and scale of that looks like. And so certainly recognize the need to involve the community and look at what the planning opportunities are, both in terms of celebrations, as well as, you know, sometimes you think of all the various Canadian centennial named facilities, and so whether there's opportunities for that kind of community naming in honor of the bicentennial. And so we're definitely multi-year budgeting comes into play as well, because we want to make sure that we're getting it on council's radar in time for that multi-year budgeting piece on this. So in short, yes, absolutely, it is on staff's work plan, and we will be coming back to council in the coming little while to seek some direction. I would at this point think it's probably into the next term of council where we're coming to seek that direction on what the scope, scale, and magnitude of that 2027 celebration would look like. And so again, as Mr. Regan has indicated, that is on the work plan within my team and under Dana Evans' leadership, but of course there will be a strong connection through to many departments, not the least of which is Mr. Regan's department.
Okay, and not to further that, because I know there's other questions, and this is a much more comprehensive strategy, but is that something that you would like to, would you want council to do something within this plan? Do you want an amendment or an additional clause to direct you to come back with that, or that's being done regardless?
Through the chair to Councillor Cron, no, that's already being done regardless. There was an info report, I'm going to blank on when that was, recently, within the last year or two, we had an info report that mapped out those timelines, and so we don't need any further direction from council. At this point, we will be coming back to you regardless, and so I don't think it's necessary to put an amendment on this plan.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cron. So just before I go to Councillor Downer, she's the last on my list, so I just want to scan and see if there's any additional questions afterwards. I'm going to have a few, but that means I'm on deck. Okay. I want to go to DCAO Holmes, who just wants to circle back to some issues raised by Councillors Alt and Gordon. So DCAO Holmes, if you would like to respond to some of the questions that were raised earlier, please.
Great, thank you. And through you, Councillor Chair O'Rourke, there's just a couple of loose ends that were just bugging me, so I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to make sure that we had a bit more information for them. So just in regards to the connection to the arts community, really everything we do, or everything that goes through tourism, through culture, just does run a thread through our economic and development and tourism strategy. So we have a lot of projects and a lot of things that we do in partnership with culture and recreation. So I just want to council and committee to be rest assured that we do partner up a lot with our culture and rec partners in order to make sure that we're providing just some fulsome projects that do connect with their section and also into the economic development sector as well. So we are very often submitting joint applications for art specific projects, for instance, the ones that we've just recently done under Mine Main Street federal funding. So I just wanted to just assure you that we are connecting with our culture and recreation partners, and it runs through everything we do in economic development and tourism. The second item is Councillor Alt had some very specific questions in regards to the breakdown of the sectors that we were looking at under economic development. I'm just wondering, Councillor O'Rourke, if you wouldn't mind if I just turned it over to Ms. Chapman, and she can provide some specific numbers that counselloralt was looking for.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ms. Chapman.
Thank you to my team for pulling the numbers together. So in terms of economic impact, looking at percentage of employment, the question was what is manufacturing versus education versus tourism and hospitality? So the answer to that question is manufacturing makes up 18% of our employment, education 11%, and tourism, restaurant, and hospitality 5.1%.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. So DCO Holmes, are you've retired that, you sleep tonight because you've answered those questions? Good, thanks very much. Okay, over to Councillor Downer then.
Thank you, through you, Chair O'Rourke, to staff. So I don't know, this is sort of more comment and I'll start with a question and then maybe some comments about it. So just going back to, and Mr. Williams raised it as well, there was a significant amount of work done a few years ago with tourism, with the Destination Next, which became Destination Guelph. It involved, went on over a couple of years. There was a steering committee. They came out with a strategy and strategic directions. It's not that old. It's just about 4 years old. Like there was an RTO invested a lot of money into the community for that. And as Mr. Williams pointed out, like part of it didn't go forward through lack of funding. Well, one of the recommendations was for the municipal accommodation tax that did come out of that as well. But they did fund some things, and there was great strategies. I mean, the strategy was steward the Guelph story and strengthen the Guelph festivals and events reputation, build a downtown Guelph destination, and grow the Guelph sports tourism opportunity. So some of this ties in to what we're seeing here today. But I just want to make sure that foundational work, and there was a great visitor summer survey and tourism economic impact study done at that time. And I just want to ensure that that work will not be lost, because when we came into that work, there was a lot of people involved from the arts communities and from the culture communities and the hotel owners and the university. One of their concerns coming into partnering and developing that work was that it would go nowhere, that this was yet again another strategy that they were asked to come and participate in, and a lot of time was spent on this steering committee. And I'm concerned that that work is being lost. It's not mentioned in here, other than at the end as some kind of a background study from Prosperity 2020. But I mean, there was a big investment by a lot of people, by the city and by RTO4 into the work done. And I just sort of want to know how this is going to tie into any future work that we're doing. I know now that tourism is under economic development and we still have arts and culture going on. But there was a lot of great discussion at that time.
So I'll go to Mr. Regan.
Thank you, Councillor O'Rourke, and thank you, Councillor Downer, for the question. Absolutely, a great deal of work was done in Destination Guelph 2016. We do have it mentioned within the strat plan, and absolutely, much of that work and information informed the strategic plan as we see it today. So maybe I'll leave it there. I can, pending that, I can turn it over to Christine or to Kathy Masterson if they want to add anything to that. But it certainly was not lost.
So I see Ms. Masterson is nodding. I know it's her first time at council, so I would like to give her an opportunity to answer a question. If you're familiar with that report and you'd like to explain how it's been incorporated into the considerations, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you for the question, Councillor, and I'm happy to answer through the chair. As you've noted, Councillor Downer, this has been a very significant document. It is something that I was familiar with before I joined the corporation. And it is something, it's a very handy, solid tool that can be used as we start to move forward, enhancing the tourism product development within the community itself. So those early partnerships are very strong and are really important in building and moving forward as we support our festivals and come out of the COVID recovery period. And really, it's just a foundational document that's going to go and have some legs for another few years before it needs to be looked at again.
Okay. That's great. So thanks, Lex. I just wanted to sort of confirm that for anybody watching who was involved in that initiative, because it was really quite comprehensive. The only other thing I just sort of want to mention, and it's been mentioned a bit before, is around the heritage tourism. I think we need to make sure that we keep that in mind, because one thing that did come out of Destination Next was that a big part of Guelph, it's not just the festival and the events, it's the stage that we have here in our heritage assets. It's in our downtown and the other parts of Guelph where a lot of this happens is around that, is around the assets that we have. And that, you know, doors open. I remember one year volunteering for it, and there were 7,000 visitors to Guelph. You know, and how do we leverage that? You know, that's so important. It was seen as a heritage event, but really it's a major tourism event that can be leveraged beyond just the doors open Guelph. So I just sort of want us to sort of, you know, keep that in mind, that that's a big event in Guelph, and other heritage, that we should be leveraging that a lot more, the heritage in Guelph. So thanks. I thought it was a great report. I thought it was really, I thought that the community competitive assessment report was so fascinating. I spent a long time going through that, and it was really very interesting. So thanks. I just, great work. Thanks.
Okay, then I'm going to take off my. I can go to. Oh, I'm actually the same.
Sorry, Chair Rourke, your audio is kicking in and out there. I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing that.
Okay, so I'm not muted. Can you hear me now, Mayor Guthrie?
Yes, everyone's nodding. Yep.
Okay, why don't we go to you first, and then I will hope the internet gods are kind to me.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Chair, for a follow-up question, and also to my colleagues. But through you, I just have one follow-up question. There seems to be a lot, I'm just going based on my gut reaction of the conversation in the last 45 minutes. There seems to be a lot of commentary because we're excited about sort of the tourism flavor of this overall strategic plan. And it's not to let go of the other strategic business, economy, growth, jobs sort of opportunities that are embedded in it. But has staff thought about a more focused report where we could dive a little bit further into the tourism part of this strategy? You know, I look at whether it's Councillor Caron's 2027 idea, and I know it's already being worked on, but like an update where we could chat about it. You know, an opportunity, Councillor Gordon's, you know, Music City. Like, is there a strategy within a strategy here? I guess I'm trying to get at, where we could have a more fulsome opportunity to chat about these things that are, you know, maybe goal setting and more strategic and diving down deeper into the weeds on these things, because that's just my gut feeling. And I'm sorry, I've tried to craft it into a question. So I'm just wondering if there's anything like that on the horizon, or a takeaway that you could use my comment as a takeaway for getting back to us or something.
Mr. Regan?
Thank you, Chair Rourke, and thank you, Mayor Guthrie, for the question. A couple of things. So we work, as you know, we work very closely with not only our tourism advisory committee, but also our economic development advisory committee. And quite often that's where some of those deeper dives do occur at that committee level. And then also as a reminder that we'll be doing a refresh in 2023 and in 2025. That we want this document to be fluid, right? We don't know what we don't know. And we've all learned that over the past 2 years. But also in the priority 6.1, it does talk about creating a marketing strategy that really looks at the Guelph experience. So we're certainly not done talking about it yet, and we want to keep it fluid so that we can adapt with the times and adapt with the opportunities that are presented to us.
Okay, I might pursue this just a little bit further. Only, so I just want to say this as a takeaway, and I don't mean to harp on just Councillor Gordon's raising of the Music City thing, but it has been talked about for like 5-6 years, and you know, there's little tiny things that have been talked about for many years to try to make, as an example, our downtown more attractive for, you know, music. One is, you know, parking signs that go up that say, you know, musician loading and unloading after 7:30 at night in this area. Like it's little $100, you know, parking signs that all of a sudden make us more friendly for music. And I'm just focusing on that as an example. But if we were to give you direction, and maybe we can have this conversation in February, maybe that would be more pointed where the money for the municipal accommodation tax is actually going, where we could speak a little bit further about it. But if we set a goal now that said, all right, in tourism, we want to be strategic on, you know, fill in the blank, whether that be, you know, council's decision of heritage tourism or we want to be the music city like Austin is in the States. We want to be the music city in Ontario, and that's our new strategic goal under the tourism strategy, which of course is about economic development anyways. So I'll leave it with you. I just want to say that there's a lot of commentary, and it's good, I must say, I find it to be good, around the tourism sort of pillar of this strategy, where I think there's just a lot of opportunity where we could get going on something with goal setting than talking under this one about things coming in the future. It could be the iron might be good to strike now is all I'm just trying to say. I'll leave it for the February conversation, perhaps around where we can look at that, or if you have suggestions between now and council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor O'Rourke, Chair O'Rourke, can I jump in just for a second?
Absolutely, sure.
So I just wanted to mention that, like, everything when we talk about, this is a very high level strategic plan. It talks about strategy, it talks about policy. So some of the things that you were talking about, Mayor Guthrie, do talk about more operational things. So rest assured that we take these all away, and our economic development and tourism team do make sure when we have opportunities to implement some of the ideas that have come up today or some other ideas that come up, that we do take the opportunity to operationalize them. So I think you're right, that probably is an opportunity to talk about that when the MAC comes up as well, because that will talk about, you know, providing some resources to direct those ongoing initiatives in the long term. So anyway, I just wanted to give you some comfort that, you know, as we talk about these things, we don't just walk away and not do anything with them. These are all things that our economic development and tourism team do take to heart, and that we will make sure that they are implemented as those opportunities come up as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So actually, I'd like to shift the conversation to some of those larger clusters. Because I think we, as Mayor Guthrie pointed out, we have covered a lot of territory in terms of the tourism piece. I think it's especially fitting as we know that Guelph has just marked the passage of Frank Hassenfratz, who started a business in his garage. It's the city's largest employer now and a key driver in that advanced manufacturing cluster. So, you know, we recognize the importance of advanced manufacturing. So I'd just like to ask Mr. Regan, we know that globally we're seeing automation in manufacturing. We're seeing big shifts in auto manufacturing specifically. So to what extent will this plan be able to address some of those big concerns coming up in manufacturing? I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
I wasn't, and then I just muted myself. Perfect timing. So the way we would address that, obviously the plan speaks to cluster development, of course, and then also working on our business retention and expansion, or what we would call our visitation program, and then also with our employment survey. So truly reaching out to these businesses and finding out what direction they're going is really mission critical for us moving forward. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just turn it over to Ms. Chapman if she may. I have a feeling she may like to weigh in on this, if that's okay.
Thank you, John. Yes, so definitely program, particularly with manufacturing sector, it is the best and most effective way to be able to communicate and better understand the needs of manufacturers is to meet with them one-on-one. We will be targeting manufacturing as one of our earliest sectors that we're going to be doing outreach to in 2022 to better understand their current situation, particularly coming out of, well, hopefully coming out of COVID this year. In addition, certainly they will be engaged as we continue to do the workforce development work. We've heard, in the past from manufacturers that, workforce is one of their top priorities that they will be focusing on. I think we can all see the signs out and about. We're hearing loud and clear that workforce is an issue. So that will be one of the things that we're tackling right away with mobilizing our local workforce resources regionally. So we will continue those conversations with manufacturers, absolutely.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's really critical for us to be as focused on that jobs target as we are on our population target when we're looking at our Grow Guelph strategy, right? Can you help me understand how the economic development strategy aligns with the functioning and the work at the city when a company wants to expand or grow or, needs a zoning change for whatever? So how does the plan work with the operations of the city to help to attract and retain and grow businesses?
Do you want to continue, Christine, or you want me to take that?
Yeah, sure thing. I can absolutely do that.
If you'd like to share and say who can answer.
Just want to share the airtime. Just share the airtime.
To you, Chair O'Rourke, absolutely. We have dedicated resources for business retention and expansion, as well as investment attraction. So over the last 5 years, we have been working very closely with our development approvals process. We are at the table as part of site plan. We are looped into that process now. And so that allows us to be able to handhold any investment or expansion throughout that process, addressing any issues or stepping in if we need to. And mostly that has to do with just simple acting as a bit of an interpreter between speaking business and speaking some of the actual development and planning language. So it has been very successful since we started to be inserted within that process. So
I'm happy to hear that. And do we track that experience at all? So, that customer experience for a business that's growing or expanding, do we measure how we're doing in terms of helping them navigate city services?
To Councillor O'Rourke, yes, we do not now, but we are as part of this plan. So customer service is one of the key performance indicators to ensure that we're meeting the needs of businesses. And that's working with our partners in throughout the development approvals process and ensuring that everybody is on the same page. And I know that there will be some more outreach with our partners there as well.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Wonderful. Thanks very much. I just had a couple more questions. Mr. Petrozzi is here, and I wanted to be sure we asked a question about Guelph Junction Railway. I think it was Mr. Williams who said, we're not a very big city. So what exactly is the potential for growth of Guelph Junction Railway? What does it mean in the context of this plan?
To Councillor O'Rourke, what it means to this plan is over the last, I came to work for the city in 2014, and within the last 6 years to 7 years, we grew the business about 202%. That's working with our existing customers, helping them expand their business. Normally what we do is we create a business plan. We look at to see what their needs are, what they want to bring in for product. We look to see how much track we can build, how many cars we can accommodate, and how much storage capacity we need, and where we can build this. And that's usually the way we expand our business. We've had a lot of tariffs that have come in play now, which also increases our revenues. So I hope that provides enough information for you.
I think it does. I think it's interesting that Guelph has really that unique point of differentiation that we can offer actually rail service. So
yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then I had a last question. I'm not, I might go to DCO Holmes. It might go to Mr. Regan. So I think I recall that in that Prosperity 2020 report, that a key concern for the city's largest employers was affordability of housing back then. Have we surveyed our, middle and large employers to see what their key concerns are in this climate? You've spoken to workforce already. Does that remain housing affordability? Not that we can, have a policy about that, but that it should be on our radar. And also, does the availability of family doctors or healthcare factor into that at all in terms of thinking of the city in a broader context of what attracts and retains that awesome workforce?
So if I may, Chair O'Rourke, and then on the affordable housing, I'm not sure if DCO Blackbush wants to weigh in as well. But from the economic development perspective, absolutely, affordable housing has an impact. When we speak with site selectors, they look for the affordability of a municipality. The other component is you mentioned is doctors and healthcare, and yes, it's always that concern. And so when we develop our stats and develop our community file, we're sure to create real data that will provide that to industry that wants to locate here or businesses that want to expand. So it is really an important piece from that attraction ability, not only for the businesses, but also for residents, of course, right? They're looking for affordable housing. They're making sure that they can get healthcare. They're making sure that we have awesome trails. They're making sure that we have a museum. Where all the other things that make Guelph just a wonderful place. So we try to build that into our site selection data for evaluation by site selectors. I'm not sure if Ms. Holmes or Ms. Blackbush wanted to weigh in further on the affordable housing piece. Not to put them on the spot, sorry.
Yeah, and it's not so much affordable housing by definition, but the affordability of housing, right? That people who work here can also afford to live here.
Yeah.
So I just, I mention it because I believe it was a key concern in the 2020 report. I imagine it's only more so a concern, and raise it as something that just needs to be on our radar. From the healthcare perspective, it may be a question for the mayor. Certainly post-COVID, obviously. Do you know if there's any groups that are going to be looking at physician recruitment or anything like that post-COVID? And maybe it's a question to ask post-COVID. Are you aware? Do you know?
Are you, I'm sorry, you're actually asking me that?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether post-COVID that's a consideration, if it's a concern for the larger employers in terms of attracting a workforce.
I haven't had it raised as much as I did actually, and I don't think I was the mayor at that time. I think it was when I was a councillor. There was a lot of recruitment going on at that time, but that was very much led by like the family health team, the hospitals, and other sort of agencies in town that then brought that issue to the city, I believe at that time, where we then collaborated with them to do a lot of the recruitment together, the marketing and branding about the reach out to try to attract more people. It's been raised a little bit in the last little while, but not in the context of like economic development. It's more just healthcare issue. But I
Okay.
can take it away in my kind of stuff I do, but I would rely on sort of the family health team and others in the community raising it. Obviously, as we grow, we don't just have to grow our water and transit and trails, but we also have to grow our healthcare systems within the community too. Even though it's provincial, it has to be on our radar as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. And I mean, definitely a post-COVID question for sure. Okay.
Sure, Rourke, I'm just wondering if I could just, on the affordability piece, the piece that we always have to look at and keep in perspective too is affordability, because it's a moving target, right? You know, we look at the individuals, this mass exit out of Toronto or the GTA going to the East Coast or coming to Guelph. Guelph is very affordable. We look coming the other way, sometimes it's not, and that's where the talent attraction piece becomes. Maybe that's where you're going with it, is ensuring that we have affordability for those workers that we need to come to fill these vacancies, and for the investment. So it really is it's a great question. I honestly don't know how to answer it any better than that.
Okay, I just stopped my video because I was getting all the swirling and caution notices. So thanks very much, Mr. Regan, for your response. I appreciate it. I don't have any further questions. Are there any other questions from councillors? No? Any comments before I call the vote? I see none. So I will just close by saying I'm really thrilled that we are tabling this today. I'm thrilled that the Economic Development Advisory Committee has a refreshed terms of reference and you know, new energy, I hope. This is so critical for the city of Guelph's overall health and well-being. The number one thing people can do to reduce, not in the COVID context, but to reduce their stress is to not have to commute to work. If we want people to bike or take transit to work, then we need people to live close to their work. So really thrilled that we've got this focus on job creation and economic development. So with that, I will call the vote on both recommendations. So all in favor of the approval of the Economic Development Tourism Strategy and the revised terms of reference for the Guelph Economic Development Advisory Committee. And that looks unanimous. So I believe that's 10-0. Wonderful, great work. Thank you very much for being here. I do not have any announcements. Do staff have any announcements? No? Okay, thank you very much. I need somebody to move adjournment. Councillor Billings, seconded by Councillor Alt. All those in favor of adjournment? Also unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening. We're adjourned.